We are the ministry of the real truth, and we strive to bring all the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in regards to the biblical scriptures through the original, ancient, very old Tav Asher, the Lishana Artika Sapraya, the sacred scribal language of God, spoken by God to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and by the men at the Tower of Babel, and also the Galilean Aramaic. This is the language spoken by Jesus and his disciples, and written. Original, ancient, very old Galilean Aramaic New Testament manuscripts, which were hidden, therefore preserved for over 2,000 years by the original ancient Apostolic Church of the East, which was destroyed in the 13th century, but was recovered or restored in latter times. They hid those, therefore preserved them, and then the native-born Aramaic translator Victor N. Alexander from Mesopotamia, Syria, he had 20 years experience translating both the Old Testament Tav Asher, Lishana Artika Sapraya, and the Galilean Aramaic New Testament, both of which are long dead languages, not written nor spoken, and he found a method to do that when he received a biblical format of the original from a high priest of the Apostolic Church. So we expose all the hype, fluff, and other garbage that you get in social media, online, etc., about the biblical scriptures, because these are all Americanized, modern Americanized English Bible translations, etc., with their errors, falsities told by the church, etc. All those copies, well, that's what they are, they're copies of copies of copies. That's where people go wrong, and there's been fights over who's right, who's wrong for over 200 years or more, because they're coming from this one mother church down through the centuries, translated by their scribes, their monks, their translators, their church fathers, etc., into the modern Americanized English translations, which are put out by the American Bible Society and similar. Okay, so we are, again, the ministry of the real truth, and we are hoping that this video that we've created and uploaded will get the attention of Sarneta TV live and the Kemitic adherents, followers, Shaka Amos, etc., these Pan-Africans, these Moors, etc. We basically created, uploaded, and presented this particular video to state that we Maori, indigenous native New Zealanders, the brown people from New Zealand, this down under, it's just across from Australia, in case you don't know where that is, have a history. We have origins, roots that go back to Africa, and through our personal research we have found that we are either descendants of the Assyrians or the Israelites, because some of our tribe, or iwi, IWI, are known as the Te Arawa, also known as the Ihiria, which is Ihiria, which is said very close in pronunciation to Assyria. And we have found a book which said the Maori came from Ur of Chaldea, or Chaldea, where Abraham was born. Mesopotamia, Syria, right? B. Some of our peoples, different peoples from different regions, areas of our country, New Zealand, Aotearoa, have been informed that they, by their grandparents, parents, etc., by their whānau or family, that they are long lost descendants of the original Assyrians and also the Israelites. So we pondered this long, and we come to the realization, we needed to do more research on this claim put forth by all of them. So I came across a book written by Gerald Massey, the Egyptologist, that Shaka Amos of Sarneta TV debate fame, he's a guy with the lock, but now cut it off, claims he has read many of his books. We did ask, or try to ask, Shaka Amos the simple question, when the chat option was open, has he read the book by him, Gerard Massey, the Book of the Beginnings, Volume 2, as Massey puts the Maori language, te reo, side by side with the said ancient Kemitic or Egyptian language, and it appears very similar. They both appear very similar, both in word and definition, to an extent, i.e. Ra, Maori, means sun, Egyptian, sun, etc. He told us directly that he wouldn't answer the question posed him unless we paid about 30 to 60 US dollars for his one-on-one answer session through a specific medium. We stressed to him, it's just a question, a simple question, requiring a simple answer. That's all, a yes or a no. Then he retorted us unpleasantly, but we talked to him about something else which helped resolve the retorts and that aggro. See, we found a book written by an Australian author who lived in New Zealand, Iti Root, who spoke to a Maori tohunga or shama type, the chief of a certain tribe, iwi, who revealed sacred Maori secrets, information of their possible origins at the risk of losing his tohunga, which Dr. Shaman, chief of the tribe status. Okay, so we're going to start here at this first book, Book of the Beginnings by Gerard Massey, published around 1889. We're not really sure if he came to New Zealand at any point in his life, but apparently we have a university here called Massey, so maybe he did. We're not too sure on that one. Okay, so here's the Book of the Beginnings, vocabulary of Maori and Egyptian words. We're going to zoom in a bit. Okay, you have some of the word here. Tua. They have two. Ouch, by the look of it. Tua ahu. See, very similar here. Tuhi. It's got a U there. Tu hui. Okay, very, very similar. As I think we mentioned earlier, Ra in our language, te reo, it means sun, and in Egyptian that also means sun. So it could be a possibility that the New Zealand Maori were actually Egyptians who migrated. They may have migrated to India, or they might have come to India before Egypt was supposedly ruled by the Nubians or whoever took over from these Indians. Because we looked at wall reliefs and we saw these skinny, no meat on them people, right, on these wall paintings. I thought, what the hell? We've seen those kind of people around, right? They look very familiar, like they were really, really skinny, like, and tall, right? And they had like they looked a bit like Rowan Atkinson's Mr. Bean. Okay, we're thinking about it, and then we walked down the street somewhere. Now we know who those people were on the walls. They're probably Indians. And then we found some books on supposedly Sumeria, Egypt, etc., being occupied or originally occupied by Hindus, the Indians, right, and so forth. Okay, so that's the language, te reo or Maori language, right, that Massey's put side to side to show you the similarity. Note, vocabulary is compiled by Diefenbach, Marina, or Mariner, Moore, and others have been used, but the chief authority is a dictionary of the New Zealand language by the Right Reverend William Williams, Bishop of Waiapu, New Zealand, London, 1871, Williams and Norgate. So now we're going to skip to the next page, which is, I'm just going to look at what that says. There is a continuity in language which nothing equals, and there is an historical genuineness in ancient words, but if rightly interpreted, which cannot be rivaled by manuscripts or coins or monumental inscriptions. Max Müller must be some sort of German writer in his day. Section 22. African origins of the Maori. This vocabulary appears to reverse the dictum of those philologists who continually assert that phonetic decay and the consequent obliteration of the origins of language is especially active among the primitive races who are now in the lower stages of culture or of survival. These words were taken down by Europeans who knew nothing of Egyptian from the natives, who were in possession of no written characters and who had no knowledge of their language having been written. While originally the Maori, the indigenous New Zealanders, had a language, but they didn't have writing, didn't have a language. They didn't write it down, right? So apparently, through our research, we found that a couple of chiefs got taken to England, and then these Pākehā or Europeans, these whites, helped them create one. And these people called them Maori, which mean normal, ordinary, something like that, supposedly. Okay. This vocabulary appears to reverse the dictum of those philologists who continually assert that phonetic decay and the consequent obliteration of the origins of language, especially active amongst the primitive races who are now in the lowest stages of culture or of survival. These words were taken down by Europeans who knew nothing of Egyptian from the natives, who were in possession of no written characters and who had no knowledge of their language having been written. For unknown ages past, the words have lived in memory alone, or rather they have remained like mummies, so carefully preserved that the likeness to life is as recognisable as ever. So far from the principle of laziness, or at least effort, having got the better of the Maori in their ethnical decadence, they have sedulously sounded to the last the most difficult phonetics, such as the ng, a Rarotonga or Cook Island friend, a girl, told us it's very close to the, because we're cousins with the Cook Islanders or Rarotongans, their language, right? So when they say an ng word, it's like a ng, as in sing. So it would be like fang, right, like that, fang. Yeah, it's hard to explain. Or nga, right? It's almost like nga without the I, right? So I thought, oh yeah, okay, we made a comparison and that sounded good, yeah, that sounded right. Okay. So they have sedulously sounded to the last of the most difficult phonetics, such as the and still possess 1/3 more words beginning with the K sound in addition to or ng than that with the H. The following list shows how the K sound has been continued in words found in Egyptian in the modified form. And here's ka iwa, wandering, Egyptian, ehua, to wander. Okay, that's very different. Okay, but yeah, there are some words that are very similar and have the same meaning. In Egypt, language continued to grow, although very slowly, and assumed new forms as the young live shoots sloughed off the old dead leaves. The anchorage of conservatism is in clinging to the ground wherein it does not grow. Growth implies change. The quicker the growth, the greater change. The mummy will preserve its likeness, while the living race, okay, and goes on and on. And he goes on about words, different languages. Okay, the table proves that the Negroid language of Bruma Island retains the highest number of duplicated words, and next to it comes the Maori of New Zealand, or Maori of New Zealand, with its 169 in 1,000. And the following list of Maori words will show how the duplication of the syllable pluralizes and intensifies. Use the Maori words here from the Te Reo or Maori language. In this aspect, the language of the Maori is next to the Negroid type, and both belong to the oldest formation of spoken language. Egyptian had, to a great extent, passed out of this primitive phase, but the hieroglyphics remain, and these in their ideographic stage show us the pictures of duplication, inasmuch as the phonetic B was an ideographic boo or bub, F was faf, H was h, etc., etc. Maori ua ua means to be strenuous and pertinacious. Ua, as the example, signifies augment, increase very much. Ua means go along, a long way. Okay, that's the Egyptian, right? Okay, he's going on about Egyptian. Okay, Maori ua ua, very close to this, right? Ua, very similar. Okay, going down here to where it talks about the Maori. In the hieroglyphs, the moon and the moon god are represented by the ibis or habu. In North Tasmania, the moon is called Weber, it's by the Aborigines probably. In the south it is Waipa. Hapa, Maori, means crooked and the curved bill of the habu made it an image of the lunation or curving moon. In the same dialects, the nurse is called Mina Meru. Mina is the Egyptian wet nurse. Meru means to love, attach, kiss, tet, Egyptian, and so forth. Tata in Maori is the stem or stalk, and Na means begotten by. Kumi is the Maori name for. Where are we? Tata in Maori is the stem or stalk, and Na, N-A, means begotten by. Kumi is the Maori name for number 10. Really? Number 10. I thought it was Tako. Maybe it means something else. As a measure of 10 fathoms. Oh, okay. And Kempt is a form of number 10 in Egyptian. Okay, so yeah, it's probably a different meaning. To be Kempt likewise denotes the man or god of 30 years, who was the pubescent and hairy Horus, called Kem Horus, the virile adult. The hair figured on the sheep, T or double, the image of erected life, and etc. etc. Tuko in Maori means to consult by divination. This is the Egyptian teru, to invoke, etc. etc. The Taro is the name of the Fijian diviner or magician, identical with the Gag Drau or Druid as a magician, and so forth. He's making all these word comparisons. Okay, it goes on about the Maori, Samoans and Tahitians call the South Tonga and speak of going up to the south and down to the north as it was in Egypt. Hagi Tongan is upward and Hefort down or downwards. Tonga, the south, answers to 10, Egyptian, the elevated. Ka region, Akha, Egypt, is the high and Hefa, the low, to squat down. Amongst the ancient Hawaiian names of the south is Leso, and footnote reference down here to Fornanda. In Egyptian, both Res and Su are designations of the south. Res Su as a compound is the raised up heaven of the south. Takurua is the Maori name of Sirius, the dog star which announced the arrival of the inundation. Taka means prepare, make ready. Urua denotes the arrival. In Polynesian, Uri is a plural of the dog, and Uha, Egyptian, is the dog. A plural of the dog. Ah, okay, that's in 1800s or something, right? So that maybe that's how Maori language has changed. It's evolved between 1800 and today, because we use the word kuri with a K. Thus, Takurua was the watchful announcer of New Zealand as in Egypt. It is natural that heat and light should have been named earlier than fire, etc., etc. More explanations. So, hopefully that gives these Kemitic Suneta TV live understanding that our language is very, very close to the ancient Egyptian. Sorry, I had to go and turn the pot off because the sausages were about to burn. Okay, he goes into more explanations of words and etc. here. It's quite lengthy. So as we said before, we had to rush off and turn the element off. Kemitic, Moors, etc., Hebrew Israelites. We hope that this has made you realise that our language, Te Reo, the Maori language, is very close to the Egyptian. So we could have been descendants of the Egyptians, could have been people that were in Egypt for a while, right? Or descendants of the Assyrians. That we've got to do more research on to verify that, to prove that. Okay, so we could be more Egyptian than you Egyptian claimants are. Okay, you might not even be Egyptian if it proves that, right? But as we said, we have to prove that, don't we? Because we reading this book, reading this on one of our encyclopedia websites. It says, does Maori, the indigenous people of New Zealand, or Aotearoa, have an Indian origin? And here's some information here. I now proceed to assert positively that 1. That the Maori is an Aryan. 2. That his language and traditions prove him to be the descendant of a pastoral people, afterwards warlike and migratory. 3. That his language has preserved in an almost inconceivable purity the speech of his Aryan forefathers, and compared with which the Greek and Latin tongues are mere corruptions. 4. That this language has embalmed the memory of the animals, implements, and or etc. possibly the actual site of which has been lost to the Maori for centuries. Probably 1. That he left India about 4,000 years ago. 2. That he has been in New Zealand almost as long as that time. No, nah. Apparently they came here 800 years ago, supposedly. That's what we read for our research. To prove these bold assertions is this author's task in his following chapters of his book, right? These pages from the Aryan Maori set out Triaga's proposal that Maori originate in India. So what we, through our studies, our personal research, have found, in various books, etc., that these Indians were invaded. They might have been invaded and they split, they took off, and then they sailed off to South America or something like that, and etc., etc., and then these people intermingled, merged with others, and then they became the Maori who ended up at New Zealand. Something along those lines. Or they were a group of peoples, a tribe, the Iwi, right, or Iwi, were Assyrians who, their country was attacked, invaded, whatever, and they took off for safety, and they went to South America, south to South America or something, or maybe went to Africa, then South America, and then down through Melanesia, Australia, and then the Pacific Islands, and then finally to Aotearoa in New Zealand. Okay, there's many different claims and variations, right? But this person, Triaga's proposal is that Maori originated in India. Okay, and this we found in the public domain, public access. It does carry some license that we can use it freely. There shouldn't be any problem. Okay, can I have a look at the bottom here to prove that? Okay, we blanked it up, but yeah, here it is down here. Creative Commons, and there's the licenses there. All text licensed under the Creative Commons of attribution, non-commercial, etc., etc. So we're free to use those. You should get copyright strike claim or anything else. Phone else. Okay. Story. Ideas about Maori origins. Okay, this is a painting done by a European. Okay. It says, are Maori descendants of the Greeks or Egyptians? Were they one of the lost tribes of Israel? Or was India their homeland? And did they arrive in one great fleet of canoes? See, this is bad. This is really exaggerated, showing that they're starving to death. That's wrong, right? Because they know how to fish. They would have taken supplies. They would have probably dropped some people off at Tonga, wherever, it's a bus stop, and then gathered plants, etc. from there. Yeah, this is way exaggerated by Europeans. Okay, but then it could be something like that, but we don't think so. Okay, so from the earliest encounters with Maori, European scholars were fascinated by the origins of New Zealand's inhabitants and came up with many theories, most of which were fantastical or fallacious. Okay, it's just like totally racist, fascist, rude, right? More recently, scientific research has revealed compelling evidence of a Polynesian origin for Maori. Okay, well, we actually go further back than that. Okay, this is a story by K.R. Howe. Main image: Charles Goldie, who's a famous New Zealand painter. He painted a lot of chiefs and wahine or women, right? And Lewis J. Steele's fictional imaging of the arrival of Maori in New Zealand, 1898. People probably weren't aware of that. That's the painting he did, right? Exaggerating. Okay, so story summary. Early ideas: when Europeans discovered New Zealand, they wondered about the origins of the Maori people. This is Macron, so it's Maori. It's not Maori like that. It's people trying to be cool, you know, like maybe the Hebrew Israelites and their Yahuwah and all that sort of stuff. Names for God when they aren't actually Hebrew. James Cook noticed that the Polynesians and Maori had similar appearances and cultures. See, because the Maori, the other word that people use is Te Hei Maori Warrior, which is the Maori breathe, basically. Breath of life, right? It's spelled different. It's M-A-U-R-I. So yeah, that's Maori, okay? But someone came out, oh, we're cool, we say it this way. Maori, you know? But it's not actually, that's Maori. Okay, that's why it's got a macron there. It's Ma, isn't that long? That macron long? Maori. Right? This here would be Ao, wouldn't it? Anyway, moving on. James Cook noticed that the Polynesians and Maori had similar appearances and cultures. He believed that they had migrated from the islands of Southeast Asia. And we talked to a Chinese guy doing a survey, and he confirmed that. He said, yeah, you're pretty much right that they're on the East Coast or some coast of Asia or something like that at some point, right? It is now agreed that Maori are Polynesians whose ancestors lived in the Taiwan region. There you go. Some early visitors who studied items such as headdresses and carvings thought Maori ancestors might be ancient Greeks or Egyptians. One artist painted a Maori as a Roman warrior. Christian missionaries suggested that Maori ancestors were Jewish belonging to the lost tribes of Israel. Like the Mormons came to New Zealand and said, oh, you're a part of this Jared or some Mormon book, name of some family that when the Tower of Babel, everyone was scattered. They had the original language, whatever, right? And then they sailed to the Americas eventually with these texts or whatever, preserved. Somebody gave it to somebody else, the descendants, whatever, and all this sort of stuff. It was just basically to trick. We believe it's to trick the Maori people to think, oh yeah, that's where we came from. So they joined the Mormon church, okay? Because these churches are always looking for new people, right? Got to fill the seats, put the money in the coffers, all that sort of stuff, in the offering basket or cup or whatever, or plate, whatever it is, okay? It's always the trick, you know. I like to give you water when you go to a big church event, right? So you get some free water from the tap, from the well at Jerusalem, right? But all the time they probably got it at the tap at the back from the sink, right? The wash basin, right? It's all to get you to that church. You think, oh, I'm going to get this holy water and all this sort of stuff, when it's really from the tap at the back. The Aryan theory. In the 1850s, scholars discovered that most European languages had developed from Sanskrit, the ancient language of India. It is still believed that Europeans and Indians share ancestors known as Aryan or Caucasian. Well, when you define Caucasian, it's not a supreme white person, pure, all that sort of stuff, blonde hair, blue eyes. It's actually a mixture of people. But these Aryans apparently did go, when they attacked or something, went into the mountains of Caucasus, and then later on they came down and they maybe merged with the Huns or the Germans, right? Became these kind of Aryans. So Hitler saying, oh yeah, we're the superior race, we're the Aryan, was incorrect. Okay, so they're a mixture of Asian, Indian, who are considered Asian, etc., right? And probably some white people, brown people, etc. Ethnologists such as Edward Traeger, or Tregear, claimed that Maori too had come from India. He found similarities between Maori and Sanskrit words and symbols. The Great Fleet Story. In the 19th century, many scholars recorded different Maori stories about reaching New Zealand from Polynesia. But one man, Percy Smith, calculated from listening to Maori histories that they had migrated together in 1350 CE in one great fleet of 7 canoes. According to Smith, they had then conquered the Maori Warrior, because the Maori Warrior was like peaceful, they didn't like fighting, all that sort of stuff. They were a real cool tribe, on Chatham Islands, etc. And these Maori with these white sailors, or these guys on the ships, they attacked them, killed them, made them slaves, all that sort of stuff, apparently. Who said were a primitive Melanesian race already living in New Zealand. So that might verify that those ones came from Melanesia. Okay? Smith's story was accepted for over 60 years. It was popular because many believed that European settlers were the next superior people who would take over from Maori. But what we found in our research is that there was already white people here before they came, and then they merged with them and they learned all these things about the forest, etc., etc. That's just what we've found through our personal research in certain old books. New understanding. From the 1920s, scientists proved that Chatham Island Maori, like Maori, were descendants of the original Polynesian settlers of New Zealand. Okay, so maybe the two merged. Maori had migrated to the Chatham Islands sometime after 1300 CE, possibly around 1500. There's some people out there who are descendants of the Chatham Islanders, the Maori, and they can tell us in the comments, no, actually, it's like this. Yeah, we'll be grateful for that, because we're into honesty. Honesty is our best policy, and if we made a mistake, well, you can help us out, because we don't know that history of that, right? Of those people, right? The Maori. We know very little, and you being a descendant, probably done all the research, and you know it. We did meet a guy called Farrell years ago that really got into the research of the Maori and everything like that. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Older brother of a friend of ours. Well, we met. We stayed in a Maori camp in a place called Hawaiiki. In the 1960s, errors were found in Percy Smith's research for the Great Fleet story. Recent scientific evidence includes DNA analysis and radiocarbon dating of archaeological sites. It is now believed that Maori arrived at different times from several points in East Polynesia in the late 13th century. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Page 2, 1840s, 1930s, the Aryan theory. Comparative science. In the second half of the 19th century, the idea of the Semitic or Jewish Polynesian was replaced by that of the Aryan or Caucasian Polynesian. Rather than Egypt or Greece, India was seen as the original homeland of Polynesians. This was the result of the fashionable science that was flourishing in England, comparative linguistics, religion and mythology. One of the great intellectual achievements of the time was to understand the historical connections between and development of languages. This began in 1786 with William Jones, who argued that there were links between European languages and Sanskrit, the ancient language of India. A succession of linguists gradually revealed the existence of the language family they called Indo-European. So that's a mixture, right? Indian and European. In the 19th century, influential scholars such as the Oxford linguist Max Muller pointed to the significance of ancient Aryan societies which moved into India. Subsequent Indian language and culture underlay the classical civilizations of Greece and Rome, and in turn the societies of modern Europe. Muller equated the history of language with the history of race, and believed that a single Aryan ancestry was shared by Europeans and Indians, hence being called Indo-European, right? Maori became included in the chain of peoples thought to descend from the ancient Aryan tribes. Edward Tylor, a founder of anthropology, extended the analysis to ethnographic as well as linguistic clues, and claimed that some cultures contained evidence of survivals from the formative stages of human society. Sanskrit survivals. While commentators had gropingly applied comparatively linguistic and religious ideas in the Pacific since the time of James Cook, the new comparative sciences offered more systematic analysis. It was not long before scholars in the Pacific found links between the Malayo-Polynesian and the Indo-European language families. It was claimed that Pacific Island languages contain significant remnants of Sanskrit, and their island custom, mythologies and religions were full of fragments of Aryan culture. The self-educated linguist and scholar Edward Tregear, who came to New Zealand in 1863, argued that some of Muller's Sanskrit-speaking Aryans in India had moved through the Southeast Asian archipelago and out to the islands of the Pacific, including New Zealand. He declared that Maori language, mythology and customs contained extensive evidence of this Aryan Indian heritage. These clues were seen to unlock the secrets of Polynesian culture, and also to offer glimpses of the formation of Aryan culture itself. Aryan or Caucasian theory was widely accepted in New Zealand and Pacific scholarship until at least the 1930s. Okay, and here's a book of the beginnings, information on African origins of the Maori. And it talks about Mangaians and missionaries. The images of the gods and ancestors as well as the spirits of the departed are called tiki in Polynesia. The Egyptian tek is a frontier and teka means to cross. These are commonly called the ki without the t prefix, and the Egyptian aku, ku or ki, are spirits, mains, the spirits of the dead. The same word likewise denotes the edge, boundary or horizon. The New Zealanders make little talismanic images of green jade. These are tikis, right? Called tiki. Tiki was the creator. The word tek, Egyptian, has the important meanings of to twist, to see, unseen, with the eye, for the determinative, to be hidden and escape notice, and yet to behold. This is possibly expressed by the tiki, which has had the head bent down on one side and twisted as if to realize the meaning of tek, as may have been seen by images, or may be seen by images. In the British Museum. Tek, Egyptian, means to amputate, cut, short. English dock, to cut off, and doki, a little meal. The tiki is not only a dwarf, but it's docked off 2 fingers, etc., etc. The Egyptian tek is Tat, the lunar god of the lower world, but not the earliest who made the passage. There is a god, a tapu place, or a sacred place. Another is a figure. Okay. Tiki has several images as a post. One is a post marking a tapu place or sacred place. You're not meant to go in there. Another is a figure on the gable of a house. That's like, you got the mangaia. It's like the left and the right carvings on the marae or meeting house, Maori meeting house. And there's usually a figure up top or in the middle between them, right? This left and right mangaia. Then you might have one before the doorway, something like that. The Toki in Maori and Mangaian is the axe or adze. Eva Toki is the axe dirge, and so forth. And there's some more information here about New Zealand, the Maori. The ancient Egyptian adze preserved in the British Museum is identical to the toki of New Zealand. Toki, not only in shape but also in the manner of tying on the stone to the handle, and likewise with the sinet with which it is bound. The Maori wicker work is also called taiki, and is identical with the Irish toka, the wattled causeway, the Akkadian tak for reed matting, and the English tak for weaving, from teka, Egyptian, to cross, twist or interweave. The tima or hock of the Maori is the same implement of husbandry as it was in Egypt. The curious dibble or pick placed in the hands of Kem, the primeval plough. The Maori have also used a weapon made of stone or of whale's bone used for hand-to-hand fighting called the mere or patu. They used it in World War II. Come up against Germans with bayonets, bam, take off the top of their head. That's how sharp it was. And the Germans thought they were devils because they did the haka or marry, war cry, dance, and scared the crap out of them, right? Thought, oh, these are ghosts. Mine, we've got to get out of here, you know. Okay, patu, take the top of your head off. And plus they go, blah, blah, you know. Give you this expression, scare the crap out of you. It's a fear-mongering thing, right? Makes you scared, right? It is a club of curious shape which has been likened to a soda water bottle with the bulb flattened. Some of these war weapons made of green jade were held to be the most precious heirlooms of the Maori chiefs. The names of mere and patu agree with the Egyptian mirhu and pet. The mirhu is a club or boat hook. Now an early form of the scepter, which can be traced into the war weapon, was the paddle blade called the pet scepter. I wonder if that's what Reggie on Sarnetta Video Live was saying, a live show was saying, is the Was scepter. Maybe that's something different. We haven't really looked at the video yet. Okay, so this is held in the hand as a sign of the Kurp, the princeps consecrated one, His Majesty. Various paddle blades, as the Usa and Hepi, also approach the shape of the mere or patu, the Maori weapon, and tend to identify the type with the pet scepter of Egypt. A secret stone is used for purposes of divination by the Tasmanians and was called hika in Maori. It's to perform a ceremony with incantation and so forth. A very sacred relic on antiquity was shown to Sir Grey. He was a politician, governor, something like that, and apparently he was not very nice. You know? He did atrocities. Well, we don't know that much about that guy. That's what we've come across, right? So this was shown to Sir George Grey. We think his grave was at the bottom steps of the Grafton graveyard, but because the sign there says that, right? Governor Grey. Pretty sure it was him. But yeah, no one's really taking care of it. So yeah, it's real hard to read the writing on it. A very sacred relic of antiquity was shown to Sir George Grey on the islands of Mokoia in the middle of Rotorua Lake during his visit in 1866. Two aged priests were still keeping watch over their treasured symbol preserved on the site of an ancient temple. This was an image the size of life, well executed in a species of porphyry, represented in a sitting posture with the elbows resting on the knees and the face looking upwards. One of those apparently brought by the ancestors who first entered the island, as the stone could not have been procured on that side of the world. Yeah, there is a Greek philosopher apparently called Porphyry. We're pretty sure of that as well. Rotorua means a double lake, which corresponds to the pool of two truths. The priest took the governor, Sir George Grey, to the place where the giant of Rotorua, called Tuorangi, was interred in a stone coffer or cist. Was he buried there or sealed in there? 8.5 feet long, formed of flagstones with a sloping top like the roof of a house. The ridge of it being curiously carved. And there's a footnote down the bottom here. Te Ika a Maui, paragraph 31-32. There's a book you can look at, right? Reference that. Rongo. Got the sound there. Rongo. Maori is the back or ridge of the house. Tuarangi would denote the ridge of heaven, and as tu means to stand erect, like E2. It's an E-TU. E2. The giant Tuorangi was no doubt a form of the heaven raiser and supporter, the giant, the Maori Nimrod. One of the Egyptian gods is termed soul type in the roofed house. And there's a footnote here. What's that? Like ritual or something? Chapter something. Roman numerals. The allegories and the illustrations found amongst the Maori and Polynesians are often so ancient that they resuscitate an almost effaced type. The lizard is one of these. It is extant as the ideograph of multiplying and becoming numerous, but was comparatively superseded in monumental times. The lizard is to the Maori and Tasmanian woman what the serpent became in Egypt, a feminine type of the two truths on which the multiplying depends. The eel is another almost superseded symbol. Yeah. Smoked eel, beautiful, caught out of a river, fresh, all slimy, etc. You clean it up, chop it up, and you smoke it. I don't mean roll up in cigarette paper, but you use the smoker. Beautiful. Not many people do that these days. The Athenian comic writers Anaxandrides and Antiphanes scoffed at the Egyptians for considering the eel. It's like a black slippery snake. It's in the lakes and all, creeks and all that sort of stuff. A powerful daemon, and an equal of the gods. The eel was sacred to Hapi Mu, or the Nile, and it was also a type of tum. It's a votive mummy case in bronze, and that's by Lemans, some writer called Lemans, a researcher. Hapi Mu may be rendered the water concealed. Tum was the sun, which was an appropriate type for the crosser beneath the waters. No, where are we? Tum was the sun which made its way through the fabled waters of the deep, and the eel was an appropriate type for the crosser beneath the waters. The eel, as a solar symbol, like the frog, is so ancient that it belongs to a time when there was neither boat nor bridge, and the big fish was the boat, as in the Mangaian myths, where the whale, sharks, and large fish are called canoes. The frog spawned a bridge as if it were over the surface of the waters, and the eel made its way at the bottom through the mode of mythology. So the god Shu and the solar god were said to transform into the cat, because this animal could see to make its way by night. Such modes of representation did not originate in worship, but in necessity and utility. Tum was the earlier Atin or Atun, the circle maker, the deity of the disk, the one who crossed the abyss, bridged the void, completed the circle when he was considered as the child of the mother. This form of the god, whose type was the eagle, has been preserved in the Maori and Mangaian mythology, in which Atun is tuna. Yeah, that's what we call it. It's a Maori word, te reo, word for tuna, language word for tuna. The divine Maori, the divine solar hero who crossed the waters of the inundation in the shape of an eel. Tune is... No, it's not tune, like tune, it's tuna. Jeez. It's old messy. Sure, it's tuna. But here's got tune. Maybe I'm wrong. Is the Maori name of the eel. Yeah, tune. Tune. Yeah. Is the Maori name of the eel, and the word eel is identical with El and A, the son who made the passage of the underworld as the Af-Sun or Atun. Okay, so El, or you Hebrew Israelites, you Yahwists, etc., that's where it's come from. Canaan, these pagans, these Egyptians who occupied it. The Mithraim. Okay, so you're worshipping, you're going Elohim, El, all that sort of stuff. You're worshipping, you're praising a pagan god. There's the evidence. El, who made the passage of the underworld as the Af-Sun or Atun. So that came from Egypt. The Egyptians, the Canaanites, Ugaritic. In the story of Ina, who had a divine lover, daughter of Kui the blind, who dwelt in the shadow of the cave of Tautua, Tuna, the eel god, appears to her and tells her of the coming flood and of an eel that will be landed at her threshold. She is instructed to chop off its head and bury it. This was done, and Ina daily visited the grave of the eel god, her lover. One day she saw a stout green shoot piercing the soil. The next day this head divided into two. The twin shoots from one root, etc., etc. Tautua, the ridge of the rest, answers to the Egyptian tattoo, the eternal region, the place of the pool of the two truths, etc., etc. And the twin tree called the tree of life, and knowledge, the twin Persea, tree of life in Egypt. Tuna, the eel god, is one with Atun and Tum, who was duplicated in Eu, and who brings peace just as Tuna does, and so forth. So you see the similarity, Kemetans, Egyptian followers, Maori has to your language. Yeah, very similar there. Not saying same, it's very similar. The Maori have preserved the solar hawk of mythology in the shape of their kite, which they fly for amusements. It is called kahu. Hawk, circus Goldie, and has the tail and claws of a hawk, etc., etc. And it goes on about me. For the north quarter is also the name of the number 9, and it denotes a fulfillment, the completion of a cycle, etc., etc. A relic of this reckoning is extant. I think it's got here. About July. The Egyptian year began in July with a starting point also from the solstice in Misura. June and March would be the 9th month. For example, Me, the month of the equinox. A relic of this reckoning is extant with the Maori, who call the month of March Maihe or Maya, although the year ends in December, and Maya to emerge, be gathered in fulfilled, is equivalent to the Egyptian Meh. There you go. See how similar we are? These are things that you guys don't know. Well, it's a different culture, isn't it? I'm not going to blame you for that, give you a hard time on that. Okay. An instrument has been found on the monument called the ka, used for throwing at birds and supposed to be the boomerang. Ooh, the Australian, right? Boomerang, Aborigine boomerang, perhaps. That's where it originated from. So maybe the Aborigines were Egyptian as well. They were there. According to M. Chabas, it is the Egyptian boomerang. So maybe the Aborigines got it from there. In the West Australian languages, the boomerang is named Kaili or Kili. Kylie Minogue? No. It is thrown by striking the ground to obtain a rebound into the air. And in Egyptian, ka expresses this throwing to the earth, also to rise up, but the full value of ka is kak or kek. And so forth. Now the word boomerang appears to be a reduced form of Borumurung, the name given to a scene in the most secret of the Maori mysteries. Now, I don't think this guy's right. I think he's got his Aborigine things mixed up. At which a tooth was extracted from the boys who were then made into men. It does not look like a Maori word, right? It looks like more like an Aborigine one. A throwing stick was cut with much ceremony, and this was applied to the tooth and knocked against it by means of a stone. Oh, Collins, New South Wales, 1804, page 364. So yes, he's probably got it wrong there. Buru means the height of attainment. So poro in Maori means to complete, attain, end, termination, as in the Pura Bung rite. Mur in Egyptian is a circle, and Ankh, life. The kaika stick, which fulfilled the circle, was possibly a type of kak. The completer of the solar circle, which, as will be seen further on, would account for its application to the tooth knocked out, and so forth. The Maori also have their tatting in the game of cat's cradle, called Maui. This is the by the by, is the name of the cat in Egyptian. In their Maui, they were accustomed to represent such scenes from their mythology as the Great Mother bringing forth her primal progeny, Maui fishing up the land, and other pictures of the beginnings in the forms assumed by the crossed or tattered lines. They were, I guess it's got here, Te Ika Maui, page 347. Tika, oh my gosh, Te Ika Maui, page 347. It's a book, a reference, right? Okay, might need a cup of tea over here. Do you got a cup of tea? In their Maori, they were accustomed to represent such scenes from their mythology as the Great Mother bringing forth her primal progeny, Maui fishing up the land, and other pictures of their beginnings in the forms assumed by the crossed or tattered lines. They were repeating the work of Tatanan, tatting the figures of creation over and again and enacting scenes set forth by mythology. The first two tatted, however, and the earliest to cross the waters was the Great Mother herself in her water types of the hippopotamus and the crocodile. So these Egyptians weren't worshipping them as gods, you silly people that say that, okay? They just venerated them because they saw a hippo giving birth in the water. Water is life. The hippo having this baby pop out, that's life. The crocodile who lived in the water, that's life. Water is life, etc., etc. And they put them on their figurines, their representations, all that sort of stuff. Okay, but these European archaeologists come along and Christians, whatever, and said, "Oh, that's Satanism and all this sort of stuff, right? They're the devils, they're pagans and all this stuff, right?" Because they probably want to undermine it. But yeah, that's what we know from listening to these Kemitic people, plus our own personal research. Okay, over the years. And there's more comparisons on the Syrian, Assyrians, the Maori, and the Egyptian words in their definitions, similarities, etc. Okay, so we think that's enough of that. Okay. Maori symbolism. Being an account of the origin, migration, and culture of the New Zealand Maori as recorded in certain sacred legends. Okay, this is a report made by Eti A. Rout, New Zealand Law Court reporter. So she'd be pretty honest, wouldn't she? But this book has been said to be debunked and it's all fake and all this sort of crap. Okay, from the evidence of Hohepa, that's Maori for Joseph, Te Rake, an Arawa noble, so he's the chief of the Te Arawa tribe or iwi. It was a preface by Sir William Arbuthnot Lane, but what's that? BART-CBMS. Okay, this is published around 1926. Okay, this book is dedicated to my fellow countrymen, the New Zealand Maori. Turn your face to the sun and the shadows will fall behind you. Maori proverb. It's a really old proverb. Contents page. We've already covered this book before, but we thought we'd go back and present it again. Contents, list of illustrations and plates, pictures, etc. Preface by Sir William Arbuthnot Lane, etc., etc. Careful reading of the manuscript of this book convinces him that it is one of the most valuable reports ever prepared regarding the natural mode of life for mankind and so forth. Okay, preface. And this is one we're interested in. Foreword by Hohepa Te Rake. This is the tohunga, or as you Europeans know, witch doctor, shaman, etc. Not necessarily evil, okay, or satanic. In ancient days it would have been a crime to publish the sacred knowledge of his race, the Maori, and for such an offence a chief would have been stripped of noble rank and probably booted out of the tribe, right, or iwi. Maybe even killed. But in the course of his travels he has found that the people of all civilized countries regard the New Zealand Maori as a native, i.e. a savage. The English may talk of him as a fine man, but in their hearts they consider the Maori an inferior and a member of a backward race. Okay, here's an example. We walked into a Christadelphian church as we were working in a private hospital, and this man said his brother used to be part of that, and they're fleecing him for his money. So we just happened to be walking along a place in Auckland called New Lynn, and we found a Christadelphian church, right? This is no personal attack on them, it's just a fact of what we experienced. We went up to have a look, right? And it had a sign outside saying there is no devil, no Satan, all this sort of stuff, right? Okay, that's a bit of something you have to think about, watch out for, right? Because the Bible says, there's a devil, there's a Satan, whatever. Jews say there isn't. So, how can an angel created by God go against God? He's just created to do all God's will. Okay, so we walked in there, and okay, it's European. It's completely European. There's no Africans, no Chinese, no other peoples there, right? Like that, different races, right? So we just walked in, looking for a seat, and we saw this lady, seeing in her eyes. She was looking at us like, oh no, it's a Maori. He might steal my purse. And she's clinging onto it for dear life, and then she's like a hen gathering up her chicks, grandchildren, whatever, right? And we could just see it coming out of her, that there's that inner racist egg that's waiting to be hatched, okay? And they'll say, oh no, I'm not racist, and they're really genuine people, but it's something that's like genetic, it's built into them. This is the gut instinct we have, right? Which proved right, because I was her grabbing your bag, clinging onto it like for dear life, and then gathering up all the children, right? The grandchildren. Okay? But we listened to the service, enjoyed it. Because we had previously gone to some other Christadelphian church, but they said the thing was going to get closed down or something. Or something like that. And so they were moving over to there. Or they go to that one. The second one or whatever, right? And we actually met a nice Jew guy there, right? He had the little yarmulke on, all that sort of stuff. He was a nice guy. No problem with that guy. It's a really good conversation, good talk, all that sort of stuff, debate, whatever they're talking about. It is desirable, therefore, to establish the facts of Maori culture. It's very important. As an example of the great need to clear up wrong conceptions, this Chief Tohunga, quoted from the article on the Maori in the Encyclopedia Britannica. This is how old that encyclopedia is. It's over 250 years old. 11th edition, which may be said to reflect the mature opinions of European and American scientists. So they weren't willy-nilly. They were very mature, very adult in their intelligence and the way of thinking, etc., and the expressions. Every Maori was a soldier, and war was the chief business of joy of his life. Tribal wars were incessant. The weapons were wooden spears, clubs, and stone tomahawks. Cannibalism, which earned them in earlier years a terrible name, was generally restricted to the bloodthirsty banquets which always followed victory. The Maori ate their enemies' hearts to gain their courage. It's a bit like the Mayans, right? Something like that. Well, maybe they emerged from South America, because they emerged with those guys. They were those guys, right? Maybe, I don't know. But to whatever degree animistic beliefs may have once contributed to their cannibalism. It is certain that long before Captain Cook's visit, religious sanction for the custom had long given place to mere gluttonous enjoyment. The Maori had no regular marriage ceremony. Polygamy was universal, and even today they are not strictly monogamous. Okay, yeah, every culture's got players, you know. It starts off at a young age when you're a teenager, getting all these women, getting it now like a regular meal at McDonald's sort of thing, and it becomes a habit, right? And when you get older, nobody wants you anymore, and you get all like menopause and oh my gosh, desperate, you know, all that sort of stuff. Haven't got a relationship, you know, what's going on? Yeah, you haven't got that pull power anymore. So when you do find a relationship and it's really good, the chick's really in love with you, all that sort of stuff, the woman, you play around because it's habit. You can't help it, right? Plus male thing, you know. The power of the husband over the wife was absolute, but women took their meals with the men, were allowed a voice in the tribe's affairs. So it was even Stevens, right? Equal rights, you know. Women were allowed to say something, and sometimes accompanied the men into battle. Yeah, or they're at the back doing the poi and, you know, probably being warriors as well, you know, to put off the enemy, scare the crap out of the enemy with the expressions, you know, their tongue being poked out and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes accompanied the men into battle. To one who knows the real facts, this is an inaccurate and degrading travesty of the facts of Maori life, and the insult is not wiped out by the patronising statement shortly following that the Maori is well liked and has been described as the Brighton of the South. In no circumstances are Maori science and history ever considered by Europeans in the same manner as the learning of their own civilization. This is from the book, it's not from us. What attention has been paid to them has been generally in the nature of the condescending study of a race of ignorant cannibals. Savages. It's a comedy you can watch. It's Billy T. James, who's like one of the funniest Maori entertainers on the TV, right? And Captain Cook and his crew was, yes, crew put up on this dinghy, land on the beach, and they say, "I say, savage," you know, all that sort of stuff. We have brought you pearls or something, you know, beads, or this for your woman or something, you know. What do you call those other things? Yo-yos or this sort of stuff. We don't need that now. We got this, you know, that sort of stuff. Real funny stuff. Yeah, go watch him. Billy T. James, very, very funny. New Zealand comedian. Long past, but very, very funny. He's like the guy, what's his name? He's a marathon on there. He plays his mum and he plays his dad. Damn, I've forgotten his name. Jimmy. Jeez. Especially the one where he buys the guy at McDonald's and the guy throws the meat out. What the hell are you doing now? Oh, I'm a vegetarian. And he throws the bun away and all that. What the hell, bro? You know? Yeah. Jimmy Jackson, that's his name. Yeah, he's pretty funny. Yeah, go watch that guy as well. Okay. In no circumstances are Maori science and history ever considered by Europeans in the same manner as the learning of their own civilization. What attention has been paid to them has been generally in the nature of the condescending study of the race of ignorant cannibals, or savages. Had the Maori scientists realised this sooner, this Hohepa Te Rake was pretty sure that they would have consented to have these sacred legends recorded, and he's counting on the approbation of his seniors in his time in New Zealand, or Aotearoa, for what he was doing then. In Miss Iti Raut, the Maori have at least found a reporter and legend carrier who will accurately and honourably record the facts and feeling embodied in Maori legends. And he hereby declared that all the evidence not ascribed to others or known previously to the reporter has been furnished to her by himself, as some of the sacred legends actually handed down generation after generation by selected members of the Maori nobility. Because only they had those. They're like the high priest of Pharisees, you know. They had these secrets. You could only know so much. Or the Roman Catholic priest, you know, to the people, common people. Well, you can't learn Latin. You can't do this because we don't want you to know what it really says, all that sort of stuff. And then he finally wished to record the fact that his knowledge of these sacred legends was conveyed to him chiefly by the following Maori rangatiras. These are like chiefs, leaders, right? And tohungas, shaman, witch doctors, mystic practices. rangitia ai, how do you say that? Oh, I can't remember how to say it. Rangi ti aurere. Rangi ti aurere. Tu tenakai, hare hare, tamarangi, tiki tere, reti te huhu, and others. Actually, I think we might be part of that actual tribe. Yeah. Affiliation, right? Part of our iwi. Who? Te, is that te hoi hoi? And that's horse. It's not hei hei, that's chicken. So it's hiu, yeah, and others. Hohepa te rake. That is a reporter's introduction. The major portion of the evidence in this report has been furnished by Hohepa te rake, the one we just told you about. But this lady, this writer, had endeavoured to record corroboration wherever possible, and she herself selected the illustrated matter. She had also compiled the glossary and index and tried to make both as accurate and useful as possible, but any amendments and improvements that can be suggested or would be suggested by students was most welcomed. The object of publishing this report was to preserve permanently some of the world's sacred legends, similar to those which have perished in the sagas and other lost and forgotten oral traditions. Hitherto, it is almost entirely the secular traditions of the ancient Maori, the songs and recitations of the people, and not the law and sacred legends which have been recorded in the numerous books written by Europeans about the Maori. Thus many misconceptions have grown up, and it will not always be easy to secure unbiased consideration for some parts of this report. And then she carries on for a few pages. She quotes here, states here, in this report I am not stating any set opinions or theories of my own, and I have not excluded evidence which others may misinterpret, for example in regard to the Jews. And she wasn't suggesting that the Maori are Jews, rather that they are Israelites. There you go. One may realise the indebtedness, well they're actually descendants of the Israelites, right? One may realise the indebtedness of the world to the Jews for the preservation of the Hebrew legends, while at the same time suspecting that this literature no more belongs to them than the philosophy of Jesus belongs to the so-called Christian nations. And her endeavour throughout had simply been to record accurate evidence and fair comment. Record this faithfully and completely. In this way only can the worth of the ancient Maori civilization I need some new glasses. In this way only can the worthy of the ancient Maori civilization be revealed, and certainly she hoped that this report would do something to counteract the many foolish and disgraceful untruths through which Maori culture has hitherto been so deplorably misunderstood. She also felt that the method of correct reporting would best aid scholars and scientists in the comparative study of mankind, and best aid the medical authorities who are endeavouring to benefit the health of Europeans by making known to them the superior hygienic wisdom and health practices of native races. This other guy, in preface, it's probably what he was talking about, if we recall right. Because they're very clean, they had to do certain rituals, to health-wise, to keep themselves clean, to keep themselves fit by practicing their fighting arts and doing war dances, all sorts of stuff. They weren't fatties. Okay. Today, the few unsport survivors. Okay, where is it? But most of all, her desire as a New Zealander, because she was an Australian, but she lived in New Zealand, so she was a Kiwi, became a Kiwi, has been to rescue from oblivion the sacred knowledge of her ancient Maori compatriots. Today, the few unsport survivors of the ancient Maori nobility behold taking notice of the deterioration of their race, the crumbling of their customs, and the wreckage of their lofty social ethics and religion. Down the gulf of time, the ancient culture threatens to disappear. Not a year is to be lost if we would record what were the foundations of this life of the past. For the centuries to come, we'll be increasingly less qualified to understand and appreciate the place occupied in the world of man by the New Zealand Maori, the bravest of all travellers, the greatest of all discoverers, and the most enduring, successful of all nation builders. It is true that the sacred health law is recorded only in abbreviated written form, and that for the most part its preservation is dependent on recitation. But every etymologist knows that sound rather than spelling is the safest record. Further to the ancient New Zealand Maori, such oral traditions were a sacred trust successfully transmitted from one generation to the next for thousands of years. The Maori remembrance in this respect is the noblest fulfilment of national obligation that the world have ever known. Now, alas, it languishes. In the few native reserves left to them in New Zealand, there are ancient Maori elders struggling valiantly to impress on the present generation the importance of still memorising the sacred legends. But these elders are slowly and tragically sinking into despair and death. They're getting old, they're dying off, as the members of the present generation become increasingly Europeanised. The trained memories which were the trustworthy vehicle for so long are becoming fewer and fewer. Soon none will be left. For this reason, the author has chosen not memory, but the printed report for recording this evidence, and endeavoured to make it honourable, accurate and reverent. The reporting of these legends has involved more than 12 months incessant work, and the revising and illustrating occupied a further period of 12 months, altogether some 2 years, in addition to years of study in New Zealand. And yet she had recorded only a very small portion of the sacred legends of the ancient Maori, only as much as her limited funds permitted. Yeah, sometimes you need finance, right? Perhaps it is well to state here that her claim to be qualified to record such evidence faithfully and accurately. So those out there said, oh, it's been debunked because it's a load of rubbish, it's not true, all that sort of stuff. Well, there you go. She's stating there it's faithful and accurate. And it's based on many years' experience as a New Zealander, a New Zealand law court reporter, and over 30 years residence in New Zealand. So she lived here for over 30 years. For the sake of convenience, the narrative form has been adopted, and for the benefit of untrained readers, comparative references have, as far as practical, been limited to two easily available and popular ready reference works: the Encyclopedia Britannica, which again we see was 250 years old or more, and Mr. H.G. Wells' Outline of History. We have that book. That guy, he was a science fiction writer, historian. Some people say, oh, he's a science fiction writer. He's no historian, but we actually have that book. And he has covered Egypt, or since civilization was Neolithic, Paleolithic, etc. Goes on about, shows you diagrams of Serapis, Osiris, Horus, the Egyptian Serapis, Christus, and so forth. Yes, it's quite a good book. We picked it up at a job where there's a whole pile of books, and they said take them whatever you want. So, this is the biggest book, we'll take that one. And it happened to be the History of the World, Part 1. We've done videos on it. We've got a playlist. We can put the list of that playlist with, I think it's got about 6 or 7 books of it underneath this video, so you can go have a look at those if you're interested. Okay, so she goes on about the Maori, keeps doing it, yeah, it's very good. Lots of information here. It should be definitely recorded here that the results to the New Zealand Maori of their attempt at Christianisation are absolutely disastrous. The Maori people have been ruined, and the Maori civilization has been reduced to wreckage and obloquy, whatever that is. Obloquy. The basis of the economics was the community ownership of the land and of the necessaries of life. When this community ownership was destroyed, their whole social fabric was perished. The Maori was led to believe that by the Treaty of Waitangi, this community ownership would be preserved. Yeah, but they were lied to. The British did that quite a lot to different nations. And the Europeans and the Maori would live together in the Christian Brotherhood pictured by the missionaries. Yeah, and there's later rubbish. Never happened. Actually, not more than 1 in 10 of the Maori is as comfortable and happy and healthy as under the ancient Maori civilization. The vast majority have been exterminated, and many of those who have survived are demoralized and deteriorated almost beyond recognition as members of the great and noble race. So that's why it's very hard for us to try to fix the community, our people, try to sort them out, because they're just habitual drug users, alcoholics, fantasies about being gangsters and all this sort of stuff, right? Fighting with each other over minor things, right? Minor trivial things, stealing, all this sort of crap. Yeah, it just doesn't seem to be a way to get to them. Yeah, maybe through Jesus the Christ, but yeah, they make up all this rubbish. Oh, Jesus was a sinner and all this crap. How'd you get that from? Oh, it's written in the Bible. It's like, oh, bro. Mary was this, Jesus was that. What a load of rubbish, You haven't even read it. where's it all coming from, and then they take off because they're obviously being exposed in front of everybody else. That's around, right? That's an idiot. I mean, not an idiot, but not very read up, to put it nicely. Okay, and there's heaps more information here. Okay, this is basically an introduction, which is quite long, so we're going to see if we can skip that. Okay, here's the symbols, and this is what they're saying. The symbols and signs book of hers is completely wrong. That she said, it's relative, it's related to the Greeks and the Persian and all this sort of stuff. Okay, we're going to go back over here because this is something important for you Kemites, you Hebrew Israelites, to know. Okay, to verify that we, the New Zealand Maori, have these connections. We'll probably be more Assyrian or Hebrew or Egyptian than all these put together. Okay, here's the crest of the 12 nations in Assyria, were as follows. Go back over here. Mr. R. N. Solomon, discussing the inheritance of facial types before the same section, contended that the perfect Greek type of face was now to be found among people of Jewish blood. Examples of the straight line of foreheads, blah blah blah. It may be a useful conclusion to this chapter to summarise that the Maori traditions of their descent and migration. It may be a useful conclusion to this chapter to summarise the Maori traditions of their descent and migration. They hold that the truth of their legends is proved by the following system of crests and signs which were in use in the days of ancient Assyria and can still be traced wherever the Maori have been. The crests of the 12 nations in Assyria were as follows. Let's see if the native-born Aramaic-speaking translator Victor N. Alexander can respond to this, or will respond to this. That the crest of the 12 nations in Assyria were as follows. 3 reptiles, Ngarara, crawling creatures, turtle, Tuatara, eel, tuna, so it's not T-U-N-E, serpent, Taniwha, 3 fishes, Ika, swimming creatures, creatures of the water, mermaid, Ika in this sense meaning an amphibian, whale, Ika nui, because it's a giant fish, big fish, fish, Ika iti, small fish, 3 beasts, Kuri, it's a dog, land creature, lion, Kuri, Kojumana or Toa, strong, brave animal, dog, Kuri iti, long, narrow animal. So that's what it was in those 1800s, right, 1900s. It was Kuri iti. Long, narrow animal, bull or unicorn, Kuri nui, a large horned animal, possibly rhinoceros, 3 birds, manu, dove or pigeon, manu karere, or ma, plover, manuka, the edible bird, eagle, and manu nui, the large bird. In addition to these crests, the Maori had the 3 signs of the house of Ihi, Ra, Iwi. Get that? Israelites, Hebrew Israelites, US Hebrew Israelites, and you UK Israelites. Ihi, Ra, Iwi, Israel, or the children of God. These signs were the sun, Ra, the moon, and the heavenly bodies, Te Aopo, and the earth, Te Papa. The sun was the divine creature, or creator, sorry. The moon was the great spirit, and the earth was the god of nature. So the Maori were like the children of the sun, the children of heaven, and the children of man. Okay, it's mythological. Call it pagan if you want, but it's mythological, right? It's one of their beliefs, tradition systems. They believe in whatever, right? Myths, whatever. These 3 made the Trinity, represented by the 3 fingers seen on Maori carvings, indicating intellect, character, and physique. The different nations or houses were organised and reformed many times. Hence, where any considerable number of Maori migrated or established themselves, representatives of many different crests would be found. The sacred legends say that while many members of the House of the Bull went to Mexico, some dropped out while crossing Europe, and thus may have travelled even farther afield. That all the voyagers to New Zealand were members of one house is definitely proved by the fact that they all have the same crest, the turtle. As already stated, all the members of the 10 nations did not migrate from Assyria to Portugal and the West. Certain parties remained in the various countries through which the migrants passed, and subsequent migrations with the consequent intermarriages scattered those sections of the brown Maori, because one of these books it says brown, yellow, white Maori, right? Went to different places in many directions. But the main body of each nation can be definitely traced by their crests and signs. The two nations which remained in Assyria were the mermaid and the plover. They had that crest, right? 10 nations migrating being the turtle. These are the ones that left. Right? The serpent, the eel, the fish, the whale, the lion, the dog, the bull, the dove, and the eagle. The 3 nations which fell out en route were the whale, the lion, and the eagle. It's the crest, right? They had these crests and these symbols, these signs. Leaving 5 nations to go to Mexico. The turtle, the fish, the dog, the bull, and the dove. To these must be added women from the eel and serpent nations. Of all these, as already mentioned, only the turtle, or Arawa, there's a tribe in New Zealand called Te Arawa, Iwi, right? Or the Ihiria nation reached New Zealand. The traditional descent of the Arawa Maori is from Ihaka, Isaac, who was the son of Aperahama, Abraham, and so they're from Ur of Chaldea, right? The son of Ihaka was Hakopa, Jacob, from whom came the 12 houses of Ihira Iwi. That's the Israelites. The word Iwi means literally the ribs of a house or of a man. Because if you look at the marae, the meeting house, that's what it basically looks like. The marae is on the left and the right, and the figure in the middle, etc., etc. That's what it's saying there. The word iwi means literally the ribs of a house or of a man, etc. Therefore, iwi means the people. Ihira is obviously Israel, and Ihira iwi is obviously the Israelites. Ra in Maori means the sun, or the sun god, or God, and Ihi in Maori means the origin or the source. Thus, the term Ihira iwi means the people of the sun god, or the people of God. The earthly country from which these people came was called Ihiria, Assyria, which is an abbreviation of Ihira iwi, an alternative spelling of Ihiria, insisted upon by some of the Maori nobles in Ihirai. Is that like Syria? Maybe? Not sure on that one. The following extract from Morris Fishberg's The Jews, a study of the race and environment, and his footnote, Contemporary Science Series, down the bottom here, throws an interesting light on this legend of the migration across Europe and the Assyrian origin. Historical evidence goes to show that there were already Jews in South Russia before the destruction of the temple. It's probably a temple in Jerusalem. This has been attested by inscriptions unearthed in various parts of the northern shore of the Black Sea. They are said to have come thither mostly from the Byzantine Empire and also from the Caucasus mountains, right? Mountain range. And in the latter country, they have been even before the present era, and have migrated from the Caucasus to South Russia, from these mountains, Caucasus region, to South Russia. This puts a completely different aspect on the question of the origin of the Jewish types met with in Eastern Europe. There remains yet to be described another group of Jews, the Karaites, or Karaites, who, though they are considerably only partly Jews, yet claim that they are the real descendants of the ancient Hebrews. These people are now found mostly in Russia, while small colonies are also found in Galicia, Turkey, and Egypt. There's probably a few in Israel as well. They are followers of pure Mosaism, the Mosaic law, etc., and do not consider the Talmud as authoritative. The founder of this sect was one Anan, who lived at the end of the 8th century. They were at first called Ananites, or Ananites, but later adopted the name Karaites. The New Zealand Maori also had the name Karaite, or Karaite, the Maori equivalent of our Christ, Karaite. Karaite, yeah, so that's how they say when you put together Karaite. The Maori equivalent of our Christ, Ihu Karaite, in Maori is Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's it. See, it's formed down the bottom here. Makes it easier to read when it's one word, right? Karaite, right? With the Christ. It will be useful to tabulate here the Maori schemes of historical reckoning, working on the system of jubilees of 50 years instead of the Great Generation system explained in page 3. Okay, from Assyria to Mexico, about, is it jubilee, 6 years, 300, etc., etc. From Mexico to Peru, and Peru, from Peru to New Zealand, and New Zealand, etc., etc. To this total must be added the 14 jubilees, or 700 years, reckoned by the Maori to have elapsed during their journey from Assyria to Egypt and back. The sacred legends cover this period in much the same way as the Hebrew scriptures, but the Maori believes that the translators and compilers of the Old Testament furnished inadequate calculations and histories for the period from the first man to Israel, probably Adam, to Israel, and entirely omitted calculations, or left them out, or deliberately left them out, and histories for the period of evolution prior to the first man. That is, for the period of the ancestral people and their progenitors. I guess that's those that came before them. The Maori sacred legends state that the period from Neo, the first man, to Hakopa, Jacob, was about 240 jubilees, 12,150 years. Prior to this, there were 3 stages of unknown length, which were briefly stated as follows. 1. From the first man back to the dog and the bird. 2. From the dog and the bird back to the fish and the serpent. Is that mythology? Mythical? 3. Or their mythos? 3. From the fish and serpent back to the reptile. The tuatara lizard was taken as representative of the reptile, the oldest stage, but it was not supposed that the tuatara was actually the first creature. Thus, the history of civilization, according to the Maori sacred legends, can be divided into 2 main eras. First man to Israel, years 12,150. Migration from Assyria to the present time, 6,630, and a total of 18,780. This is the Maori legends. That is, the Maori legends carry us back about 17,000 years BC, so far as civilization is concerned. Prior to civilization, the Maori scientists hypothetically estimated time as follows. Man back to dog and bird back to fish and serpent back to reptile, in all series approximately 120,000 years. During the first period, man developed himself from the dog and the bird. Is this saying like evolution type thing? Okay, this would be mythical. We're pretty sure that's mythical. During the first period, man developed himself from the dog and the bird. First came the development into a monkey. Okay, this is their mythical evolution, right? Passing through 8 stages, etc., etc. The hairy and the non-hairy, then came the development from the non-hairy monkey into a man who had no language and consequently no records. This unimproved man further developed himself for some thousands of years until the last civilization was born. The birth of civilization was the development of language and the recording of history by the first man. This is a Maori evolution by the sounds of it, but it could be true. Yeah? How would they know about evolution before Charles Darwin? The birth of civilization was the development of language and the recording of history by the first man. That is, the first man is really the first civilized man. The first civilized man. The date of the birth of civilization in the Maori sacred legends is reckoned approximately 18,000 to 20,000 years ago, and the place was Assyria. These ancient Maori calculations may be usefully compared with the table published in the Outline of History by H.G. Wells, science fiction writer, The Time Machine, all those other ones, right? Okay, here it is here. Compare them. BC 18,000, Europe steppe period. There's monuments and all that sort of stuff. Egypt, Mesopotamia, men entering upon Neolithic stage, agricultural beginning. Reindeer men going. It's all here, look. Okay. Down to 1920, Christian era. Okay. It's all there. According to the Maori sacred legends, the pyramids were built about 4,400 BC. So why was this Tohunga, this chief, not allowed to reveal those sacred texts? Those sacred secrets, right? That's something to ponder over, Maori people, because they didn't want them to know for some reason. What consequence would they get for not sharing it if they knew that, right? That's where they originated from. And then they put out these stories. Oh, we came from Hawaiiki, a mythical place. Were they trying to throw off people so they would never know where they really came from? Because maybe persecution followed them wherever they went, because they maybe at first they said we are, oh, you're of them, are you? Okay, we're going to give you hell, that sort of stuff. Maybe it was like that. What do you call it? Anti-Semitism in that period, right? Something like that, or anti whoever they were at that time, whether they're Assyrians or Israelites or whatever. Okay, migrating could be the problem like that, right? Okay, here's the prehistoric designs and Maori life symbols. These are ancient ones. Look at that. It's an Assyrian. That's a freaking Assyrian. Look at that. You go compare with all those images on, say, Google Image, etc., and that's an Assyrian. Okay? And there's all these symbols. Okay? And this probably would have been backed up as Libyan as well. Tunisian and Libyan, Spanish and Brazilian, Mexican. Would have been backed up by that tohunga, witch doctor, shaman, how Europeans understand it. Okay? And a chief. Okay? Probably would have been backed up. The stories from the sacred secrets that he revealed probably was just Maori and Irish decorations, because apparently before the Maori came 800 years ago, whatever, before that period there was the Irish, the Celts, and they left their many blue symbols, spirals, etc., on these rocks, which was found by this I think it's an archaeologist or somebody like that, historian in New Zealand. He said, hey, these are Irish. So all those spirals that the Maori have is originally from the Irish. Okay, there's your tiki. Okay, these probably represent the punga fern and the small shoots, the curls, right? I'm not too sure on that one. They all have their meanings. Okay, and there's some people cooking. This looks like a rug, Irish decoration or something. Sacred decoration. What's this? Okay, here's all the symbols explained. Here's the decoration of Lundin Stan and Gospels at Anglo-Irish. Compared design on top of 2 with the Libyan head. Probably that. Number 7 opposite. Oh, okay, number 7 opposite. 7. There you go. Anglo-Irish. That was the same. Libyan head with number 7, which is a Libyan head. Number 2. That's a Libyan. Where's the Libyan head? That's can't be it. Design of 2, on top of 2 with the Libyan head. Number 7 opposite. Okay, so number 7. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So that's probably that. Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to see. Not too sure. Pretty sure that's what she said. She said compare 2 with 7. Top of 2 with the Libyan head. Number 7 opposite. Yeah, it must be that and that. Bodily pride. Although the New Zealand Maori took the utmost pride in his body and directed all his endeavours towards improving it and preserving his health and efficiency, his ambition was not so much to live to be fit as to be fit to live. He considered actual physiological life in all aspects as something to be enjoyed and valued, something to be improved and made the most of. To him, the earth was not a vale of tears, it was a happy hunting ground. By hunting ground is here meant searching, i.e. seeking improvement. So they're like the Bruce Lees of the Maori era. His body was indeed a supreme means of enjoyment. The denial of any normal healthy bodily appetite for the mere sake of denial was quite foreign to his ideas. The very notion of purposeless self-immolation was contrary to the Maori mind, but equally contrary, and it goes on and on. So yeah, they did certain things to stay fit, healthy, clean inwardly and outwardly. Yeah, did a lot of dancing, huckers, etc., etc. So they had this bodily pride. But today, a lot of them have a slovenly pride because they've got bad habits, Too much McDonald's, too much Burger King, etc., etc. Race improvement by warfare. Food is medicine. So they don't just eat for the sake of it, they ate it for a very valid reason. Most of the staple foods of the Maori were of vegetable origin, so they're basically vegetarian. They had no animals for food, such as cows, sheep, horses or pigs, until the coming of the Europeans, because they introduced them, didn't they? The pouaka or the pig, and the sheep, the dog. Well, I'm not too sure about the dog. Yeah, they might have, I don't know.
They had no animals for food, such as cows, sheep, horses or pigs, until the coming of the Europeans, or the Pākehā. Their flesh food consisted of rats, but the rats weren't like sewer rats in those days, and birds, snared and cooked at certain seasons only, when fat, fresh and smoked fish, eel, etc., sometimes eaten raw. Raw fish, not eel. Shellfish from the rocks, eaten raw. The liquor, fresh and uncooked, was relished. The liqueur, and so forth. Or lightly cooked by having boiling water thrown over them. Eels and whitebait, eaten cooked, and crayfish from the rivers and lake, usually eaten cooked, and lizards which were roasted. Wow, roast lizard. The principal vegetable foods were the sweet potato, the kumara, it's like one they might have got from South America, and travelled down here with it, and the taro, which is an islander one, right? Pacific Island, root vegetable. Got the big ass leaves, we got them growing outside, and the leaves are like humongous, like a jungle. We don't know what to do with them because we're not from the islands. We have suggested to people who are islander, hey, how do you do this? What do we do with this? And they go, well, we'll be back tomorrow. Never came. That was about a year ago. But they just started growing really huge, like a jungle, Generally steam roasted, sometimes boiled. Pumpkins grown mostly for the sake of the calabash vessel, and the so-called Maori cabbage, which would be better described as spinach. Hey, Maori cabbage. Piko, and pua. Maybe that's the fern roots and all that sort of stuff. They're small shoots. Puha, it's like a watercress, right? It's like a watercress, water-based plant. It was originally supposed to be said as pufa, Puwh. The former consisting of the young shoots of a native tree fern. That's piko. The former just read that. The latter a plant somewhat like a thistle. Might be like Scotch thistle, pretty close to that. The common pigweed. The Maori also use the soft succulent stem of the tea, the dwarf cabbage tree, which grows mostly in swampy land. Many berries found in the forest were eaten raw, others were boiled or roasted, then dried and eaten, just as we eat nuts. Fern root was also used very largely, sometimes peeled and eaten raw, but more often pounded between stones, then sun-dried and finally cooked slowly for a long time. This cooked fern root constituted the Maori bread. Real wonder bread. Maybe it's a different kind of bread. For there was no wheat or other cereal in New Zealand. No Nutri-Grain, none of this Cocoa Pops. There was no wheat or other cereal in New Zealand, only the Indian corn or maize brought by the Maori from overseas. Food was regarded not only as the body's natural sustenance, but also as a natural corrective. So us Maori out there need to go back to this. Stop eating all those Ronald McCrap-Arnolds, right? And get back to the Maori diet. According to the Maori view, diet should be so regulated as to keep the bowels in proper working order. You don't want into, what's that thing? Not involuntary bowel syndrome. Irritable. It's not great. When anybody felt out of sorts, they said the inner man was unhealthy. That's how we feel. Sometimes when we consume something, we feel like crap. We wonder why. Because we've had a coffee or we've had something, and it's caused a distress or a disorder. It's put your body, your mind out of place. You feel like crap. Rest from food followed by exercise was necessary to put the inner man in good form again. See, these are secrets, Maori people. Lose all that flab. Get healthy. Stop. Put down the McDonald's and the Burger King and those large Cokes that are actually probably a mixture of fake sugar, sucralose or something, and what's the other one? Pepsi. Put the inner man in good form again. Piko, the young shoots of the native tree fern, and the liquor in which it was boiled had a loosening effect. Soften up your bowels there, bro. And was usually included in a daily diet. So that made you regular. Puha, south thistle or pigweed, was stronger in its action. Thus it was most suitably for those in good health. And it was not usually taken by sick folk, children or the elderly. Because it would make you probably do the opposite, make you go toilet. I don't know. Invalids were fed with invalids. Maori out there. When you go to welfare and they say, oh, okay, you've got a disability, so you're an invalid. What they're really saying to you is you're invalid. You can't get a job. You can't work, right? That's what they label you as. But under the radar, they're saying nicely, you're invalid. You're actually invalid. Nobody can
is going to be able to employ you because you have a disability or handicap or whatever, right?
Yeah, they didn't tell you that, did they? Invalids were fed with the broth in which fish or birds eaten by the community had been cooked, and they partook of the ordinary diet of piko piko. It may be remarked that all greens, such as piko piko and puha, were steamed in very little water, so that they cooked mostly in their own juices. Oh, sweet, so that's the secret. This liquor or juice was never thrown away, but was considered more beneficial and effective than the vegetables themselves. Yeah, look how much they are in the Mad Butcher. They were like, they're cheap as, now they're like about $15 a bunch, and you get it from other people at the flea market. They've got it out of a sewer, out of a dirty water, right? And they're selling it to you. Oh, very cheap, $1. You know, you don't know where it's come from. And one day we saw them picking that out of this dirty creek, yeah, where the industry pumps all their crap, right? Oh man, I'm not buying that stuff from those dudes, you know. But some of them do grow it at home, grow different things at home, but they mostly get their puha or their watercress mainly from those dirty waters. Okay, so be careful on that one at the flea markets. Okay, so this juice of the puha was diluted with water, served as a wholesome and refreshing drink. Maori cabbage was steamed in calabashes. They're like containers, right? Probably made of some sort of plant, yeah, base or something like that. In the cooking ovens, or hangi, right? Yeah, and so forth. After the coming of the Europeans, particularly after the release of pigs by Captain Cook and the introduction at the later date of sheep and cattle, the civilized belief in the transference of strength by eating the flesh of animals was accepted by the Maori. It should, however, be clearly understood that cannibalism was not resorted to for dietetic purposes, nor was it a general practice. Rather was it a religious ceremony, whereby wisdom, strength and courage were acquired. The flesh of the slaves was never to be eaten, nor that of members of the same tribe, and the common people were not to participate in the ceremony. The king and his nobles alone were to make or partake of human flesh, and that only of enemies of high rank to get their power, right? And conspicuous valour. They were brave, so yeah, we'll chew on their heart, whatever, you know, with demands, and we'll get strong like they were, right? The parts mentioned in the legend as being of special virtue were the eyes, brains and heart. It is recorded that a certain king rejected one of his enemy's eyes because it was blind. His enemy was blind, right? The heavy bones of the slain were used as battle weapons, each bone being inscribed with the identity mark of the enemy to whom it had belonged. Heads were preserved as heirlooms. Human hair or the scalp was formerly worn as decoration. It will have been observed that the dietary customs of the Maori were similar to those now being recommended by the highest European medical authorities, who contended that the human body is more efficiently maintained on a primarily vegetable diet, occasionally diversified with fresh fish and birds. Maybe a bit of chicken now and again, eh? Yeah, we tried these different diets, these European diets, and I was like, oh mate, after a week or so we crave for a frickin' chicken, you know? Munch out on a whole chicken. The latest medical teaching in regard to intestinal health is on much the same lines as that of the Maori in regard to the regulation of the health by means of diet rather than by drugs. So get off your drugs, peoples. Get off the McDonald's, get off that rubbish and return to your Maori diet, right? Your traditional diet. Don't say you're Maori this and you're Maori that and you're not even, well, you probably don't know, following that ancient, diet. Your kaumatuas, your ancestors' diet, right? In ancient times, the Maori had only 2 meals in the day. The first about a couple of hours after rising, and the second one in the early evening. At midday, they had only a snack, usually some dried fern root, with a drink of cabbage water, accurately described as herbal beer. Okay, well, we don't have cabbage outside. There's cabbage trees, and we don't have this herbal beer. Okay, the bells were empty the first thing in the morning. Again, after the midday snack, the herbal beer facilitated this. It brought it on, right? After the evening meal, and etc., etc. Fish might be eaten in the morning, or vegetables at the evening meal. Birds occasionally formed the staple dish, or the meal might consist of fish, cabbage and fern root. Fish and birds were not eaten every day. Cabbage, sweet potatoes and fern root were the most usual articles of diet. Ooh, sounds like a boil-up. The latest medical opinion confirms the Maori view that 3 soft motions, go toilet, a day are desirable to keep the body in health. To the Maori mind, hard indicated grave sickness, a condition requiring abstinence and change of diet. On the other hand, excessive looseness showed that too much cabbage or herbal beer had been taken, and these dietetic errors were corrected properly. Thus, by varying the quantity and nature of the different foods and drinks, a natural and regular habit of body was induced. Any sign of irregularity was considered an indication of ill health. Yeah, that's how we feel. Something wrong with you, I consume that and I feel like crap. Because of that thing, I feel like crap. And I keep doing it. And I still feel like crap. Right? Now I have water and I feel way better. Like it's flushed it out, right? And I go back to eating that crap and I feel like crap again. And so on. Okay, they were immediately taken to remedy the condition. There is an interesting native story which illustrates the fact that in Maori life, evacuation of the bowels was considered a normal happening to follow a meal. A Maori planned to murder another who was, he considered, standing in the way of his obtaining a chieftainship. The murderer's wife ascertained the victim's exact meal hour, and from the hour of his visiting the latrine was calculated. There he was met and murdered at the anticipated hour. Wow, all planned, eh? An example of, because then he probably make good eating, better eating, because he's empty of all the things he ate. If he ate, maybe he ate a bird or something like that. An example of the Maori appreciation of the necessity and benefit of internal cleanliness was given in the Great War when a European medical officer contrasted the absence of varicose veins among the Maori soldiers with the frequency among the European troops. He suggested that the trouble was caused in the Europeans by the much heavier loads they were obliged to carry, their packs probably here. But a Maori noble rejoined, no, it is not the load the Europeans carry on their backs that causes the varicose veins, but the load they carry in their bowels. I think it was Vietnam. A lot of those American soldiers were found to be underage, so the 18 whatever, to the 20s, and they had 5 to 50 or something pounds of undigested red meat in their bowels when they died. Wow. Hygiene and sanitation. The ambition of the Maori men was to grow big and fine, handsome, strong and healthy. Hey, that's us. Thus only could they be sure of gaining the greatest reward for life held, etc., etc. It goes more into that. There's a Maori stockade, an old village. Still hygiene and sanitation. Clothing and sunlight. Clothes designed to protect them from wind, rain and the elements. Physical exercise. So they weren't sitting around getting fat. Weren't becoming hippopotamuses. Social organisation, religion and race selection. In battle, the Maori was overcoming sin, defeating the sinful, stamping out wrong. There was no such thing as purposeless fighting. Victory was the reward of innocence and right. Defeat the punishment of guilt and sin. Similarly, an injury to one was regarded as an injury to all. For example, to monopolise the fruits of the earth was obviously sinful because it injured the community. Obviously, it was equally sinful to deprive any individual of his natural share of those fruits. In the same way, it would be detrimental to the community not to have the ownership of land vested in itself. Common ownership of land was therefore right. Individual ownership was wrong. The individual was regarded as having a right to his natural share of all the necessaries of life: sunlight, air, food, or shelter. Therefore, all these things were owned in common and shared by all. They were created for the benefit of all, etc., etc. So, Maori people out there, this is the answer to your homelessness, your lack, having no food, all that sort of stuff. You got to get up off your nono, right, and start getting off the drugs, the alcohols, the crack, the glues, whatever, and ump yourself up, get physical, lose weight, muscle up, get fit, right? Eat the traditional diet, your ancestral forefathers' diet, etc., etc. What does that say? No, Maori was an individual. Simply an individual. He was always a member of the community. See, that's the problem out there. We're all separated. We're all fighting over this and that. You know, what you can get, what you can scrape up, what the white man's crumbs or that charity, whatever. You know, you're all relying on that. You're not self-dependent, independent, non-dependent. You know, you've got into the sedentary life. There's heaps more information here. All from your ancestral forefathers, your kaumatuas, okay, etc., etc. So come and read this book, work it out, and then live it, practice it and live it. That'd be great, huh? If all of us people had that one mind, you know, go back to the ancestral diet, exercise, lose the weight. You know, get healthy. Don't be dependent on those medical drugs or whatever, you know. Your doctors. I mean, some people need those, you know, like you got a flu or something like that. You know, that sort of thing.